do it.
Can you
Will
Garrick stats?
Huh?
Can you update Will Garrick stats?
That's waiting for it.
That was gonna be my question.
What was the focus of today's practice?
Just getting better. You know, we're obviously happy and excited to be back, you know, in our home stadium. Our kids are excited. They play well in our stadium in front of our crowd. So just good to be back out there. There's a lot of enthusiasm, a lot of spirit on the field.
Now that you've had a chance to review the film from Saturday, what were some of the things that you think you guys need to really hone in on this week and work on?
Well, just, you know, that offense is an 11-man operation. That, you know, it's different than defense of football in every, you know, situation, that all 11 people have to do the right thing at the right time. And that's what everybody talks about, chemistry, the commitment to team, just little things like that, you know, are the things that we really got to focus on.
What are some solutions on that offensive line? What are you looking for there?
Well, we just, I think we need to play better at all positions. You know, it all starts with the quarterback and our offense, getting us in and out of the right plays, making the right protection checks, getting the ball in your hands on time, the wide receivers hitting the landmarks at the right time, the tight ends understanding if they're in the protection or out of the protection, then the offensive line understanding and keeping the front four off the quarterback. You know, so it's all an 11-man operation. So I think they're going to grow. Last week was our first time with Jake, you know, being in there, with Skylar being in there. But I think they're going to get a lot better, and I think we'll, you know, I know we're going to be fired up to be on our home field.
When does that become a concern, the O-line?
Well, it's not today. I'll fill you in if it does.
Talk about White defensively. What's their base defense things they do?
Well, they're 4 down front. Got 3 really good linebackers, big kids. You know, they have a big kid in the middle, who's playing nose guard for them. Very talented corners. 3 are number 7 and number 9 back there. 11 and 22. You know, safeties that are really good tacklers. So they're not very complex. They don't do a lot of things, but what they do it very well. And those type of guys, you know, they understand angles. They understand, you know, how to take a 20-yard gain and cut it down to a 6-yard gain because they understand angles and they understand where they fit. So it's going to be a challenge for us. But, you know, I expect us to be, you know, as fired up as we've been because we're back in front of our home crowd.
Could you see a game like James Quick had coming? Could you see that type of a performance coming?
Well, yeah, he's an explosive kid, and he always has been. I think that, you know, the people in Louisville have seen a lot more than I have because he did a lot of it in high school. But, you know, he's one of those guys that could, you know, is a threat to score a touchdown whenever he gets the ball. And it was good to see him have success. And now he really believes that, you know, he is one of the explosive guys in college football because he should think like that because he has that talent.
When a kid has a game like that, can it change the rest of the season in terms of confidence, in terms of their ability?
I think so, but he practices that way all the time. He makes a lot of huge plays for us at practice. It was just, you know, that night where we found the coverage that we could take advantage of. He just so happened was the guy in the right place at the right time, and he did a good job of running it in. Then there was the one on the sideline. Of course, he did something out of the box that bailed us all out, which, you know, that's what these explosive receivers all over the country do. That's what I talk to him about is you need people on your team in the receiving corps that have the ability to bail your team out. And they jump and catch balls, land on their feet, run in the end zone.
Coach, this time last week you talked about the practice week being maybe one of the best you all have seen since you've been on staff here. How does this week compare to that one in terms of mental sharpness?
Well, we had a good spirited practice today. A lot of leadership on the field. Michael Lee Harris, you know, I noticed Jamon and John Miller, you know, I noticed out there, Eli, De La Cruz. So those guys have a sense of urgency. They're upperclassmen. They have a lot of pride in this program, a lot of pride in this, you know, football program and playing in front of our crowd. So, you know, it was a really good practice today. Now, we've got on Tuesdays when there's a new game plan, there's a new defense, there's mistakes that happen. But in regards to the energy and the enthusiasm and the focus, I think it was a good practice.
Turnovers in your own territory, Miami, Virginia, even last week. How much of that is attributed to bad luck, and how much of that is something that you guys are working on correcting?
Well, I don't think it's bad luck. You know, the ones last weekend, an offensive guard got beat. We had Eli in the end zone open for a touchdown. Will was stepping up in there, and the guy knocked the ball. He had 2 hands on the ball, but he didn't have it tight enough. The guy knocked the ball off. We wasn't able to get it back. And then we had the lateral that we were throwing a stretch route to Dominique out there, and they, ball hit the ground. But you cannot have turnovers, period. But to have a turnover when you're in the scoring zone is a double negative. So it's definitely something that we need to be conscious of, because you can't win huge games, against evenly matched teams that if you're going to turn the ball over.
All right.